Hi again, Risa here, back with another episode of Ask Risa. This is my weekly video series where I answer some common wedding planning questions and concerns that perhaps you are having. There are a bunch of other videos in this series, all of which you can find on my YouTube channel under Risa James Events, and they are all grouped together in a playlist to make it easy for you to find them. This week, I am talking about hair and makeup and just some tips that you should know before you go ahead and line up your hair and makeup artists for your wedding. Obviously, this is a woman-centric topic, so dudes, you can tune out. I don't have a lot to tell you about hair and makeup. Get a haircut a week or so before your wedding and make sure you've got the appropriate styling products on hand with you when you're getting ready. Okay, you're done. Ladies, sorry, it's a little bit harder. So my number one rule when it comes to hair and makeup for your wedding is if you are going to ask other people, like your bridesmaids, to have their hair and makeup professionally done, then you need to pay for it. If you don't want to pay for it, then you should make it optional and leave it up to them. But you should not force them to pay to have their hair and makeup professionally done because it can be expensive and maybe that's a budget breaker for them. So you just want to make sure that you're either covering it for them or giving them the option and not requiring it. So when you do finally start looking at stylists, there are some who do both hair and makeup, and there are some that just do one or the other. So depending on which route you're going, you may have a whole team of stylists if you've got one person doing hair and they have an assistant, and one person doing makeup and they have an assistant. So your professionals will help you figure out whether or not they need an assistant, but a general rule of thumb is for the bride, it is going to take about an hour for each of her services. So an hour for hair and an hour for makeup. Bridesmaids, mothers, anybody who's not the bride, usually we allow 45 minutes for each service again. And then the hair and makeup stylist will need about 15 minutes to get all their stuff set up. So let's say if they arrive at 8 a.m., we're going to start the first appointment at 8:15 because they need time to get all their gear out and get everything situated and get it all set up. Typically, we have the bride and her attendants, her female attendants, maid of honor, bridesmaids, the mother of the bride, the mother of the groom, stepmothers are sometimes included of the bride and groom. And if there's any other special family members or not quite family members, I have had clients whose, for example, brothers weren't married yet, but they had a significant other, serious girlfriend. So the girlfriend was included in the hair and makeup getting ready session with the bride to make her feel like one of the gang. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, but if you are marrying another woman and you have two brides, then you'll want two separate hair and makeup teams because you want to get ready separately, much like a bride and groom do, and have the big reveal either at your first look or when you walk down the aisle. And the only way to do that is to have two separate hair and makeup teams because, as I said, hair and makeup takes a while. It would be difficult unless it was just the two brides getting ready. It would be difficult to have the same team do both. In that case, if you had separate hair and makeup artists, one bride could have hair done while the other had makeup done in different rooms, and then the artists could swap and do makeup and hair for the ones who didn't have it earlier. But if both brides and a bunch of other girls are having hair and makeup done, then you're better off just hiring two teams, having two separate rooms, two places to do this, and that'll make it a lot easier. Something to keep in mind is that a lot of stylists on the wedding day only take cash. So you'll make a deposit earlier in the booking process to reserve the date, and you might be able to pay that by credit card. It depends on the stylist. But most of them are only going to take cash or Venmo on the wedding day. So you want to clarify that with them ahead of time and make sure that you have enough cash on you if that's how you're going to pay. And don't forget, if you're paying for your other girls' services, you're going to need a lot of cash. Also with tipping, it's customary to just tip as you would if you were in a salon, so add an additional 15 to 20% on. If the stylist works out of a salon, then that's definitely something you want to consider. If the stylist has her own company and is therefore setting her own rates, then sometimes it gets a little more complicated with people who own their own businesses because they obviously have overhead and, expenses to run their business, but it's not like they're getting paid an hourly wage by somebody else who owns the business. They are the business. So in that case, then tipping is way more discretionary. It's always discretionary, but for salon services, it's generally expected that you're going to tip 15 to 20%. So keep that in mind. Another thing to think about is make sure you book these professionals far enough in advance that you can have a trial run with them, and make sure that you like what they're doing and you like the results of your trial with them. And if you don't like your trial, you basically have two options. You can either try, have them do another trial for you and get it right the second time, or you can just go a different direction. So if you're going to go a different direction, obviously you need more time to line up somebody else to replace them. So it's best if you can have the trial first, then commit to booking the hair and makeup people, and put down your deposits and things like that. But you want to make sure that they're getting you and they're getting your style. It's helpful to have pictures of what you want from magazines or celebrities or whatever, some idea to give them to go on so they can realize your vision a little bit easier. A couple other things that you want to ask when you're interviewing stylists: if having vegan and cruelty-free products is important to you, you should ask them about that. And if you have questions about technique, like whether they do airbrushing for makeup or whether they use hair extensions, feel free to ask those questions ahead of time as well. If you think you might want some of the makeup later on in the night, like lipstick is the biggest culprit for coming off during a wedding because you're eating, you're hugging, you're kissing, etc. You can ask them about whether, you can purchase that product and have it, like they will leave it with you when they leave after they're done doing your makeup. You can pay some stylists to stay through the ceremony so that they'll do post-ceremony touch-ups, like after all your photos and stuff before you go into the reception. But most of the time, that's not really necessary because makeup artists are very skilled at putting on makeup so that it will stay. They'll put a finishing spray on. They're probably going to use some sort of lipstick that's, got some staying power. There's all kinds of products out there nowadays. So you probably don't need to pay to have someone come back or stay longer to do touch-ups because you should be fine. One other helpful thing, have water and snacks on hand during your hair and makeup session. That's for you and your bridesmaids, and also for your hairstylist and your makeup artist. Be sure to offer them water and snacks. They probably brought their own, but it's always nice to offer it and make sure that they're aware that they should help themselves. And if you're ordering anything from your florist that needs to go in your hair, then you need to make sure that that item is delivered before your hairstylist leaves so that she can place it with your veil if you're wearing one or whatever you're doing with your hair. You just want to make sure that you have all the components that you need before the hairstylist leaves. And one other thing for hair and makeup, when you are venue shopping, if the venue has a dedicated space for the bride to get ready, take a look at it. Does it have natural light? Does it have a lot of windows? Is there space in there for a bunch of people to hang out? Are there chairs or stools? Most professional makeup artists and hairstylists prefer for you to be in either a chair with no arms or a stool, or maybe they've even put salon chairs in there. I've definitely seen some venues who put salon chairs in their bridal suite, which is nice. So, and you want to make sure there's plenty of mirrors and things like that. So these are things to think about way at the beginning of the process when you've just gotten engaged and you're beginning your venue search. So these things all tie together. That's really all I have to say about hair and makeup. So if you have any questions on this topic or anything else wedding related, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer your question, and maybe I'll even make a future video out of it. So I will be back next Wednesday with another video, and until then, you can watch my old videos on YouTube or check me out on Instagram, where I'm always posting lots of wedding inspiration. All right, talk to you next week. Bye.